Also, one of the fun things that I got to do was I was a traffic rapper.
Oh, okay.
So I was writing these really lame rhymes in the early 90s, 80, 89, 90. And so it was an all-black station. I was the only fairer-skinned person at KSOL 107.7, San Francisco. And they dubbed me Dougie Fresh.
Nice.
So I rhymed every traffic report. I've only memorized one because people will say, what did that sound like?
Yeah. Well, what's the one?
Overturned bender, now you don't be picky. Northbound 280 and it's happening near Hickey. And another crash, it's time to tell you we're talking north 280 ramp to westbound 92, so I better slow down on my rapping spree. I be thanking my sponsor, Martin Lawrence Gallery. And you couldn't rap the sponsor, so you had to read the commercial.
Right, you had to read the liner card.
So lame. Everything was a road or a lane, whatever it was. But that was the fun novelty of that time.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York, Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Mostly.
Mostly.
That's right, Mr. Matt Wilson from the Mostly Marketing Podcast, an old radio pal of mine. We came up in our first jobs in radio back in the 90s, late 90s. Go check out his podcast. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals about all things business. They're free-flowing, real conversations that you can expect here. It is a video and an audio podcast. Check us out at MMTBP.com. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and it'sYourShow.co, where you can get a podcast just like this one, if you so choose. Because it seems like everybody wants a podcast these days. And, my skills and talents are back in vogue. I never thought that would be. The reason why I'm talking like this is that today's guest is very special because I get to go down memory lane a little bit and talk about, a still beloved industry that is currently just being dismantled, in my opinion. And we're going to be talking all things radio and how things kind of play into the future moving forward. And if you're in that kind of the medium, this is a good podcast to listen to. Mr. Doug Griffin, thanks for being on, sir.
Oh, glad to be here.
Yeah, you've been a part of 94.1 FM The Fish for over 20 years, correct?
Yeah, 21 and a half years. Been there since day one.
Day one.
Till the last day.
That's crazy. That is utterly crazy. It's and it doesn't really happen all that much. And you were handling mornings there.
Yeah, first 16 years was mornings, then did middays, ended up doing afternoons when they shut it down on April 30th.
Okay.
It was our swan song.
Right.
The fish was fried.
Was that the inner dialogue around the hallways?
It was filleted, it was blackened, it was...
It was, deboned maybe or something.
We try to scale back on the fish puns, but
scale back
never works.
So the reason why I reached out to you, and it's I see a lot of it happening around the industry lately. You see what people is happening. A lot of people are being put, quote, on the beach, is what they call it in the industry. When you lose a job, you're on the beach.
Yep.
And, things may happen. Wall Street gets involved, business mismanagement or whatever happens. Here we are, right? And it's been happening a lot more these days. And every time it does happen, I'm compelled to post something, I guess, that the radio industry would seem to be maybe deemed snarky. But it's truly in the spirit of letting people know in that industry that, dude, you are still needed. It's just in a different format. It's in a different platform. Mm-hmm. In that industry, there are so many creative people, as you know, that can help with digital content creation, with podcasts and, ideation, that, all the things that we've known, especially you being a part of a morning show for as long as you have. I remember listening to you when it was Doug and Jackie back in the day.
Yeah,
right?
Jackie Velasquez.
Jackie Velasquez. And I always try to at least instill the hope that, hey, your skills are still in demand, even though they're not valued by the industry anymore. There's other industries that would truly value them.
Yeah.
Even the engineers, the guys who put the radio stations together, that control the towers and on the signals and stuff like that. You're needed. There are so many people out there that want to do podcasts, and they just need to be shown how. I can't do it all. Okay? And that's why I kind of reached out to you to, get your history and everything and have a conversation like we're having. So,
well, and I certainly agree with that. I mean, the human connection, the fact that there's somebody on the other side of whatever speaker you're listening to, terrestrial, satellite, internet, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I agree. Content creators, communicators for the Christian format, encouragers, hope builders, hope givers, those kind of things.
And sometimes people misread me. I have one person that takes me to task because I tend to get a little miffed when people say, well, hey, radio's still the most listened to, most consumed. I'm like, no, come on. I don't know anybody. I hardly know anybody that listens anymore. Everybody I know, maybe because I'm too in what I do, they listen to podcasts now. And it's, you know what I mean?
It was borne out. We recently had Christian Music Broadcasters Momentum Convention.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the slides verbatim, but they did one thing that was talking about the shrinking cume, the cume being the total number of listeners that a radio station has access to.
Yeah, yeah.
And you may have a certain percentage of that audience, but that audience is so much smaller than it was. So you can have bragging rights to a certain percentage,
right?
But the pie is micro.
But that's what they always used to do anyway, even with when Arbitron was doing the diaries. Okay, for those of you who don't know, the ratings agency, the company that they used for decades was a company called Arbitron. And there was Nielsen and Arbitron. Nielsen was mainly for television, Arbitron for radio. And what they would do was give diaries, literal handwritten diaries, and they would pay you a certain amount of money to track what you listened to, when you listened to it, and how long. And also you would put your information in there, who you were, what you did, how much money you made, what age. So those were all the demographics that went into it. And back in the day, the beauty pageant, fashion show demo or measurement was the 12 plus numbers that would come out on allaccess.com. All Access being a victim recent in the past year. That was the radio trade website.
Yep.
Allaccess.com, run by Joel. I can't remember his last name. Joel Denver, that's right. Who would publish all the quarterly ratings from all the different cities around the country. And it was really cool to look at because you could see not only the market numbers, but the fashion show, who were the top, the 12 plus numbers, meaning all listeners considered. Everybody 12 and older, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, you get into the money demographics, which would be adults 25-54. That was a demographic that you really wanted to be, top 5, top 10, that kind of thing. So my argument lately has been, show me the numbers 10 years ago and show me the numbers now, both in ratings and revenue. I said, let's take a basic cross-section of top 10 cities and let's take the top 10 radio stations in each market. Show me what they did 10 years ago and show me what they're doing now. That will, I think, prove my point, But so you were saying that they talked about that at this convention you were a part of? Or?
Yeah. I'd have to look up the numbers, but they use Z100 in New York as an example, and just the shrinking numbers of that, broke it down to a country format, shrinking numbers, Christian format, less data for the CCM, contemporary Christian music format, but still the station they looked at, shrinking. And I think you can, for those of us that have kids, I have kids, if you have grandkids, how many of them are glued to the radio like we were when we were kids, because there was no competition?
Dude, speaking of kids, have you tried paying your kids lately? Seriously.
Yeah.
Do they take cash?
Well,
Do they care about it?
My son does know how to convert that into other currencies.
My kids literally the other day said, I don't really care about getting paid cash. Just buy me Robux or whatever they call. And I'm going, are you serious?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll Venmo you.
Right. I'll Venmo you the money and you go ahead and do what you do. They would rather have virtual currency. That's crazy.
That is interesting.
Right?
Okay. My kids have not fallen into that one, so that's coming.
How old are your kids?
25 and 35.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So, they're a little bit older than mine.
Yeah. They're ready. He would rather invest in other intangibles.
Okay, so are they big into crypto or anything like that, or
one of them a little bit? I just think other things to entertain himself.
Right. Right.
that aren't legal in Tennessee yet.
Okay, I catch your drift. Tell me about, going back to your beginnings in radio. What kind of led you up to it? And I would dare to compare my notes because it's probably the same.
Same thing. Yeah. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
KSFO was a radio station that I listened to that played old-time radio shows.
Yep.
Before there was television, Lights Out, Dimension X, Whistler. E.G. Marshall's Mystery Theater was on CBS Radio in the 70s. The Comedy Hour. Grew up on Dr. Demento.
Yeah.
So just all of that. And was an exchange student to Germany my senior year of high school. And instead of being a prolific letter writer, because 84, 85, we weren't texting, I played radio. So my host brother had a stereo system. We found out if you could put the headphones in the mic jack and talk into the headphones.
It was a microphone.
It was a microphone.
Yeah.
And so my name, Doug, KDUG, KDUG, was my official station. Mm-hmm. And I would broadcast from Germany on cassette, send it to my friends, and then just fell in love with falling into that through San Jose State University and got a job doing traffic in the Bay Area and then took off from there.
And just kind of kept on going from there.
Yeah, traffic was a great place. At the time, there were 2 radio stations in San Francisco, KGO and KCBS. Traffic every 10 minutes, 24/7.
What year was this?
This would have been 87, 88.
Oh, yeah. You were about 10 years before I got in. So I was 12.
There was when you talk about, jobs, there was a shift to be covered between the 2 competing traffic agencies at the time.
Yeah.
Also, one of the fun things that I got to do was I was a traffic rapper.
Oh, okay.
So I was writing these really lame rhymes in the early 90s, 80, 89, 90. And so it was an all-black station. I was the only fairer-skinned person at KSOL 107.7, San Francisco. And they dubbed me Dougie Fresh.
Nice.
So I rhymed every traffic report. I've only memorized one because people will say, what did that sound like?
Yeah. Well, what's the one?
Overturned bender, now you don't be picky. Northbound 280, and it's happening near Hickey. And another crash, it's time to tell you. We're talking north 280, ramp to westbound 92, so I better slow down on my rapping spree. I be thanking my sponsor, Martin Lawrence Gallery. And you couldn't rap the sponsor, so you had to read the commercial.
Right. And you got to read the liner card.
So lame. Everything was a road or a lane, whatever it was. But that was the fun novelty of that time. Also, the morning show host that I was opposite was named Billy David Ocean, had a big voice.
Yeah.
The afternoon guy was Super Snake.
Isn't it funny? Those, you ever see the California Air Check channel on YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That is the golden era of radio.
Yep.
Back when you had to pull your music, pull your cards, all your commercials, your hour, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Again, to the layman listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, you had to. Nothing was on computer back in the 70s, 80s. Back in the 60s and 70s, they were still playing things off vinyl.
Yeah.
Queuing things up on a record and stuff. You'd have to run the little velvet, eraser thing to dust it off, cue it up, hold it with your hand, and then let it rip when you wanted to.
You wouldn't want to wow the record.
No. Yeah, wow. I've never heard that term. That's new to me.
Oh, really? Okay, they would say, don't wow the record and watch out for cue burn. Because if you're backing up that same, when I played at college, we had records at San Jose State for a college station. There were some of those. That groove was well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you're going back and forth. Yeah. Because that was one of the things. I did college radio at WXEI in Danbury, Connecticut. And not that I don't think I ever did a shift there, but I watched how they worked it. Mm-hmm. My first radio station, everything was just automated. So they had voice tracking already implemented. But there was one time we came in and everything went down. Like the whole system. Production director was putting all the commercials on reel-to-reel so we could play all the spot sets. I mean, literally in real time, okay, what's coming up, get them all on cue them up, run them off, get it to the air studio. And, and they were pulling their music. And of course we had to go live overnight and everything. And I had a blast. It was so much fun.
Yep.
Just being so live like that, And then we had people that had to do the overnights that had no idea what they were doing. That was fun because they'd leave the mic on and then curse themselves because of how badly they did.
Yep.
I had one girl that was on after me. She's like, she did her break, fired the song off, and she goes, God dang it. I'm like, put the mic down. Holy crap. Your mic's hot. Called the hotline. I'm like, hey, I completely understand where you're coming from, but dude, that just went over the air.
That's hilarious.
We had no 7-second delay.
No.
None.
Those are the freewheeling days.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better, sound better, and, well, spring better. We just make them incredible again. Incredible Doors in Spring Hill. For when your door's springs break, you need remote reconnections, opener installation, or just about anything to do with your garage door. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR.
Oh, gosh, it was such a blast. Then we came back to hard drive and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly the live and the in the moment and just the crazy pace of mornings. You know, I never enjoyed myself more than I did. You know, morning drive when everything is just popping.
Yeah,
it keeps you on your toes.
Well, I mean, now I'd imagine you're able to sleep in late, at least.
I do not.
Can you?
I do not regret the hours. Yes, I can.
Yeah.
I can sleep.
I totally can.
My wife is a champion, but I'm getting on to the intermediate level.
Right.
So I can 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Yeah.
That's a good time to get up.
Sleeping in for.
Because, I mean, that's about when the show started wrapping up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Did you guys end at 9 or 10?
We ended at 10. Right. 9 to 10 was pretty chill, though.
Yeah.
But 5:30. At least it was a 5:30 start.
And you got to the station at what, 3:30, 4 in the morning?
No,
5.
20,
really?
Yeah, you get 20, 30 minutes ahead of time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you're constantly doing show prep. You're constantly doing preparation for what you're talking about.
Right.
And, we had a thing where we always started every morning with an impossible question.
Yeah.
So designing that with the fact of I wrote the questions a week at a time. So you'd come in not having to think.
Yeah.
You know, your first bit of the show was already kind of thought out for you. Listener interaction over the question.
So, I mean, you're kind of in that situation because it's an ongoing thing. You're doing show prep at any given moment. It could be, 8 o'clock at night. We could talk about this. We could talk about that.
Yep.
Here's something that's trending, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
So after the show, was it production time or did you go out on sales calls, that kind of thing?
It was mostly on production. Yeah. There were other things that we were doing. We all had 8-hour days. So it wasn't the radio, do your 4 and hit the door.
Right.
That you would say about a 4-hour air shift. There was another network at the Fish that was a praise and music network. So we had massaging of that network to do. Yeah. You handle your endorsements, clients, like you say, sales meetings, other production for things, production for your show. So
did your endorsees, the endorsers, I guess, like you'd be the endorser, they'd be the endorsee. Did you have long relationships with them and stuff?
We definitely tried to sign up, for a year at a time. Mm-hmm. I am very thankful for those that have been with me for the entire time because I came to the market at Way FM and had a connection with Nelson Mazda.
Chad Connery.
Yeah, Chad Custer.
Chad Custer.
Chad Custer.
Chad Connery's a different guy. It's funny. I have a meeting with Chad here in a couple of weeks. Sorry, Chad.
Yeah, he came on. I mean, I've been endorsing them for all 25 years of being here. They came here in 98. Yeah. I came here in 98. One of the other things I do is a mobile DJ business for weddings and parties.
Oh, okay.
But at the time, I was hired by Nelson Mazda to DJ their $5 car sales.
Ah.
And as a car guy, I don't know if you ever heard about that little novel thing that they did, but they built that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Nelson Mazda is headquartered. Right. They flew a guy out from KXOJ to teach me how to do the $5 car sale. But basically, they would have all the used cars on the lot with the price on the window people sometimes would spend the night so that at 8 o'clock, when the cars were unlocked, the first person in line got behind the wheel and would sit until 9 o'clock. I was in a tux with the music and a mic, and I would walk around the lot, and Randy, Magic Marker Man, would come up and he would say, that says 2,000 on the windshield. I'm going to knock that down to 1,500. Right? Just this whole interactive thing. Yeah. At the end of the day, they sold 30, 40 cars.
Oh, my God. In a day?
In a day. All used cars, maybe 1 or 2 for $5. Yeah. Some for $100, some for $500. Yeah. It was a crazy success story in terms of the people that were showing up.
How often would they do that?
2-3 times a year. I could be misquoted. Maybe once or twice a year. It wasn't like all the time.
Right.
But between the two dealerships, at the time they had Rivergate and Antioch.
They say the purge inventory.
Yeah. Well, and it was such the hook too. And Randy had a bunch of fun with it. You know, there would be someone behind the wheel and they'd be like, Randy, give me a good deal, man. I slept here all night. It's like, you slept here all night? $100 upcharge, hotel charge. He'd take the price in both directions.
You know, it's funny. There was a guy in Vegas who, and he had a reality show for a minute. It was called The King of Cars.
Okay.
And it might have been on Discovery or the Learning Channel. His name is Chopper. His real name is Josh Tobin. And if you go out there, the facility is called Tobin Dodge. And he sells the cars to like Mike Tyson and all those guys. And they have Chopper Edition cars.
Okay.
Like it could have been a Durango or a Ram or something or other that was like made it so it was his branded car. And every Saturday, they would have these like cable shows. So he would hire the station to come out and film and must have spent gobs of money for the production because it was off the hook. He would dress up some of the guys at the dealership. One guy was the Blue Genie. There was all these different characters, and he just, you know, he'd be in front of the camera. They must have a line of cars, and they'd, you know, bring up the next one. And we got this, you know, 2002 Buick, blah, blah, blah. And they'd, you know, it's got this and this and this. What's the price on it? It's $25,000, Chop. Man, that's too high. Shopping. You know, this whole gimmick, you know.
Yep.
And dude, my wife and I would put that on just in the background. It was so entertaining. As stupid as it was, it was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
And man, it's like he made it. It was like the first iteration of what we now know as a personal brand that I'd ever seen. You know what I mean? That was back in 01, 02, 03.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy though what this guy did. And it was like, you know, who knew that this is a thing now?
Yeah.
People like that.
Was Cal Worthington in this market?
In Vegas?
No, I'm sorry, in Nashville. I feel like I have heard that there was a Cal Worthington, and he did like a whole car thing, and he had a horse or animal. Anyway,
it might have been.
But even in the Bay Area, you know, different things growing up with like furniture sales guys, and this guy that would just come out that raw, local, crazy, but in a lot of cases worked well because you stuck out.
Right. They weren't refined yet, you know, because they were doing it like once a month. They didn't have the reps in that a radio person does, you know. And that's the other thing I tell a lot of people in radio, you know, especially talk hosts who get cut loose and stuff like that. Guys, just go with a damn podcast. Start a podcast. Take the frickin' revenue from them because you have the market equity, your revenue, your advertisers, your listeners like you. Run with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, give them half what they were paying on the ads and you get to keep it all. Start yourself a damn LLC and run.
Yep.
Okay, you're going to let me go? Okay. Good luck. I'm going to plant my flag over here now. Here's where you can find me. Go to blah.com. And then, you know, off we go to the races. You're already doing it every day. You've already got a leg up of other podcasters because most people are doing a once a week show, if that.
Yeah.
You know, this is a once a week show. I'm a radio guy, for crying out loud. All right?
Yep.
You're already in the groove. You already know what you're doing. I mean, so I'll pitch that to you.
Okay.
Is that something that you thought about doing? Because you've got, you know, the favorite 21 years of market equity, dude. That's nothing to balk at.
Oh, no. I think so. I mean, that's definitely something that I've been kicking around was, you know, trying to pursue other terrestrial options, probably just because it's easier.
Yeah.
But, to land on the podcast, definitely.
There's definitely local terrestrial radio stations like my former stations that I believe are still being run right. Okay. And it's like, I hope people that are in the industry are hearing me the right way. I'm not trying to throw shade just to throw shade. It's because it's the romanticist in me is fired up. I hate to see what's happening, but I want people to, I want to impart them with the knowledge of what I've seen and what's been my life.
Yeah.
There is life after radio and you can pursue it. And that's all I want to, you know, get that out there. You are needed. Just because that industry doesn't see the value in it, you need to learn how to sell it.
Yep.
But you are needed, you know, and I hope you know that.
I appreciate that. No, I felt very needed, very connected. It's one of those things, I'm sure, whatever business you're in, you're on that hamster wheel for a period of time, and then for whatever reason, the wheel stops.
Yeah.
And you're forced to get off and like look back and go, okay, wow, that was something. 21 years at a station or 25 years in the market.
Yeah.
The thing that really touched me was we broadcast our final day. We said, okay, these 4 hours on April 30th is going to be our last day.
Yeah.
We're going to have Chick-fil-A and Sean the Balloon Guy in the parking lot, and we're up here doing the radio show. So we would go in and put some tracks into the system and then run down and interact with the listeners for half an hour and run up and do some more of the show. One of the listeners brought a journal, a diary basically, and left it out there and said, whatever you guys want to say. And I have not even read all of the things that were in there, but so many people had such heartfelt stories and connections. I mean, whatever media you consume, connecting to that personality is sort of part of what you do. We had a thing that ran for years on the morning show called Love on Your Kids Friday.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
And I mentioned doing the wedding business. I've had 2 brides over the last several years who have inquired about my services. And as we're talking, she goes, well, just so you know, I was one of those Love on Your Kids Fridays.
Oh, wow.
I remember when you read that email from my mom or when my dad called in, and I think it's really cool that you're going to be able to, be a part of my wedding.
Wow.
And so for those kind of connections is just a reminder, because I love that. I'm a people person, love to find out about people, very, very much wanting to connect with folks. So to be reminded of that for all the people that filled out that journal and everything was very touching. So.
I would say that even, a lot of old on-aired people that are being cut loose, guys, you are made for sales. Go find something to sell because you're a natural salesperson. You know how to talk. You have the gift of gab, either on a music format or even a talk format for sure. You have the gift of gab. You have a way about you. You're a good, skilled orator. And, just all you have to do is get in front of people and talk and sell stuff. I mean, and it pays better. It's just depending on what you sell and if you're into it. I mean, that was my transition out of radio, was into the car business. And it was a tough transition only because I came from where I was the man. I was the guy. I was like, I loved what I did, but I hit the ceiling, at least I thought I did. And everything I went through from 2013 on to 2016 was there for a reason. It was my college education that I didn't get early on. That's what I refer to it as. But man, what coming out on the other side of that, just such a different person. All the things I learned in that business are such life skills, And that is a big part of it. The business savviness of it, like on Anna Marie's podcast episode that we did, if you picked up, we talked about, if I had the opportunity or was invited back to do a morning show on a terrestrial radio station, I would say I don't care about salary. I want to come in business and to be in business with you, be like a partner side to side, and put my skin in the game.
You wanted the stop sets.
Right. Give me 2 stop sets. Okay, because if we were able to raise the rates based on what I've done, that's having skin in the game. Is that a good idea or not?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I think the idea of being collaborative and the idea that you can partner with someone who's interested in your market as well.
Yeah.
The decision that was made in the case of the Fish Nashville was a decision that was made so high up the food chain.
Yeah.
There's really not a direct connection.
You had no control.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, this is a business thing. We have debt. We need to leverage this asset or whatever. But to show that you're connected and that you're committed to it.
Yeah.
That you're not going to go somewhere else.
Well, I mean, try it. I mean, in your as you go down the road now, hey, what if we did this instead? And just fall in love, because that's the other aspect of radio a lot of people aren't aware of. Typically in radio stations, the sales department and the program department do this. They're at odds. Not so much in the radio station here in Nashville where I worked for. We were very harmonious, our culture. We worked really well together. But everything leading up to that, it was like a war zone.
Yeah.
I was a head of production and all aspects of what I did. And you'd always get, like, in the previous iterations to Nashville, it was, hey, the deadline's at 3:30, but I don't really give a crap. It's 5:15. This goes on tomorrow. See ya. I'm out.
Yep.
Well, I was going to be out, but I guess I'm not. Now I got to produce this. Oh, it's a 5-person spot at that. That's great. That's awesome. All the time that happened.
Still does.
But in Nashville, I would imagine, where I was here, it was the management had everyone's backs, and it worked, and that's why it was the integrity of the staff, and it created a good culture. Yep. But going into something like that, like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Give me 3 spots. Start with 3, go down to 2, shoot for the moon, land on the roof. And then, see what they say.
Yeah.
Because, that's an interesting aspect to look at it. Because now I need to go out on sales calls. I need to be available for the salespeople.
Right.
You know? Who wants me? I'm available for 3 sales calls a day. Let's do one right after the show. Let's do one mid-morning. Let's go grab a lunch with somebody. Hey, even after, let you know, and learn how to close people.
Yeah.
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
That's a good idea. I like that.
Something to look into.
I like that. I think it makes me think about, I don't know if it's a fair enough comparison, but the whole, TV syndication thing.
Yeah.
When people were being paid to be actors on old television, and nobody heard about syndication, nobody knew about reruns.
Right.
They were just focused on being a part of this way, being focused on growing the station, growing your brand, and growing the revenue.
It's as holistic as it gets, man.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we got to pull in revenue. That's the name of the game. Ratings go out the window. I mean, they're still there. You can still measure it, but your income isn't based on bonuses and stuff like that. No, I want a piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just give me 1 spot set or 2 spot, the revenue flow from those, and make sure that you're doing the right. Okay, let's get the data first. What are you charging per spot?
Yeah.
And am I making a good living? Because on 2 spot sets worth of stuff, I guess if you were doing local direct, because that's all you have control over. But you can also, if your skin is in the game, you're more attractive for agency spots and national stuff as well, which they can adjust the rate for that. There's got to be something there, because now you're intrinsically invested in bettering that day part.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Totally.
And then that's how you get paid better.
Off to the races.
Off to the races, man. But even getting back to the subject of a podcast, capitalizing on your market equity, things of that nature, even the relationships you have with advertisers who are now orphaned.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we talked about, length of time. So most of the ones that I had stuck around. So Nelson Mazda was 25 years. Cool Springs MD was 13 years. Zero Res Carpet was over a decade. So that, and then also the ministries that we helped. That was also a sad casualty for me, was I oversaw the fundraisers that we did for third-party organizations. So my favorite was to go to the Nashville Rescue Mission right before Thanksgiving, and we would broadcast from the mission, and we would ask listeners to support the Nashville Rescue Mission.
Yeah.
And it was great. Talk about the radio thing. I'm sitting there at the mission. Phone Central is 10 guys and gals that are through the program that are sitting across from me answering the phone, that whole energy of hearing the phone ring while you're talking and people giving their support. One Generation Away, an awesome food distribution ministry out of Franklin. We would raise money for them, and also for Men of Valor. That's a prison ministry. So there's no longer a commercial music Christian station in Nashville.
Yeah.
So those folks. So that's a good point,
Yeah.
to be able to include them, because I just loved being a part of that. The local ministry, the local boots on the ground, the fundraising. After we had the floods in Waverly, listeners were so generous, they brought in $100,000.
Oh, wow.
To be able to fund One Gen to go do, they were doing food pantry distributions once a month for 2 years after the flood.
I mean, you could be doing that anyway, just over Zoom or something like that, or StreamYard, and you have that interaction with the listeners that are piping in via social media. It's just building that up, planting that flag and letting, I'm over here now.
Yeah.
Because you do have a personal brand, whether you know it or not. That's got equity to it. I mean, you could probably go to Nelson Mazda tomorrow and say, hey, this is what I think I'm doing. I need someone to help me fund it. What do you guys think? And put together, a pitch deck or whatever.
Yep.
Something I could totally help you with if you want my help. But and then just presenting it to them, saying, I just want to be my own. I'll do what I used to do just for myself.
Yep.
And plus, I'll give you a break on what you've been paying.
Yeah.
Because we have this long relationship together. What do you guys think? You can be an umbrella sponsor, completely own, the umbrella aspect of it. You know how to divide it up. And when to take breaks and how to put in spot sets and stuff like that, and go to your old advertisers who, like I said, they're orphaned. What do you guys think about me doing this? It'll be at a fraction of what you were paying.
Okay.
And that really funds your business. That's your seed fund for your business.
So my takeaway, which is huge for what you're saying, but also relatable to the listener, is if you find yourself at a crossroads, make sure that Jim gets to get you on to give you your schooling on what to do next. I totally appreciate that.
I didn't bring you on to school yet. It's just I get
That's
inspired, and it's like
that's a good thing.
My good old friends in the radio business back in the day used to cajole me, because I was the guy that I would just have these ideas, and I would be like, what you should do. So I had that moniker. Oh, here it comes. They used to call me Gilly. Gilly, what should I do? And I'm like, sorry, man, I have ideas.
No, that's
it's
good.
funny because a lot of a friend of mine who was in a similar situation that I was in radio with, he went and got a job with the state, and he loosely held on to different radios, part-time jobs, and eventually it really kind of turned he turned sour on it. But he started he was a good writer, and he's a huge Van Halen fan, and he's one of the primary writers for Van Halen News Desk. And he's like, I really want to do that more and start more. He's got his own podcast. He's kind of like an encyclopedic rock music type of guy.
Okay.
And that was his big thing when he did music radio, is that he could tell you back in 1973, Greg Allman did this, and he found a paperclip on the sidewalk which inspired this. He just knew that stuff inside and out. You met those guys, and that's what he would do on all his different shifts. And now he turned it into a podcast called The Book of Rock. So he brings people on who wrote books about rock music and different artists and stuff like that. But his true love is Van Halen, And I said, dude, Van Halen News Desk doesn't have a podcast. I said, you can run with that. And here's how you do it. Here's how you set up the pitch. Get a percentage of the company, however it works.
Right.
And he went and did it. I'm not sure how it turned out, but it's something that, I just.
No, I appreciate it.
I know things.
No, tremendously. I totally appreciate that. The helpful side, part of my preparation for any interview I do is I prep a lot for people I interview, but I'm not often on this side of the microphone. So I'm like,
so much easier.
Yeah. Let me see what this guy's up to. And so, one of the gals we talk about the rescue mission, Danielle Breezy, News 2 meteorologist, came down to the mission and did some breaks with us and got us on the news that night, talking about this fundraiser. And so I listened to the podcast with her. So there's a plug to go back and dial that one down.
She came back and she was like, you got so much out of me that I'm like, we need to edit some of this. And I said, but that's my natural curiosity.
Yeah.
Because you heard it on that podcast. I said, look, let's be real.
Well, you were giving her tips on the assistant, I guess is where I was going. Like you were saying, hey, you need to sponsor your Facebook's lives and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so there's the plan for her. That's good. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we can all take something away from that.
That's totally something, because a lot of people don't realize what they have. And that's the I tell my kids, you're living in a sell or be sold world. That's the world we live in. You're either doing the selling or someone's trying to sell you in any moment. Okay? This morning I leave the driveway and I go down to the mess that's been made out here on Duplex in Spring Hill. And there's a road closed, but you can kind of get around it. So there's the first sell. The road is closed, but is it really? No, I'm seeing other people going around it. There's a T intersection there. A woman pulls up and I'm treating it like a four-way stop because I got people in front of me, and she starts cutting in front of me. So naturally I do the Northeastern New York thing and lay on the horn and and she's like got her window down, giving me one of these, like the shrug, like, what did I do? I'm like, that was a sell. I'm not buying what you're selling me.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I tell my kids that a lot. My daughter is working for a company right now that's, I think, drastically underpaying her. And she's like, I've asked them for a raise. And I said, well, what did they say? She goes, they should hold me what they told me. I thought, that's called a posture. They're posturing to you. And you need to, like a salesman, go, I completely understand where you're coming from. Let's look at it this way and start reframing the conversation. And that's what I learned in sales.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
And I think fear is the other thing. So your encouragement to any one of us or to the listeners is to get past the fear, especially for me that have been on that treadmill for so long in one area. About all these other things that are out there, but sometimes there's a fear of stepping out. But I've heard from so many people that got pushed or pulled themselves off the wheel. Yep. That next chapter was just so amazing because they were fully in charge.
You'll find that I think God pulls the curtain back in those scenarios. It happened to me. Because that was, I don't know if you know my story on getting into self-employment, was the last job I had is actually the company that let me go is a good client of mine now in numerous ways. And it was the second time I had been let go in 3 years after radio. And the first time I was kind of like, well, maybe we can, do the voiceover video, maybe podcast thing. And my wife was like, car business, that's an income. We have bills to pay. Second time around, I was like, no, I'm doing my own thing. I know enough now. It was terrifying, but we're still here.
That's good.
To the point where we had a Disney trip planned. I was let go in March of 2016. We had a Disney trip planned in May. And my wife's like, well, what about Disney? I said, we're going. I don't know how we're going. All I know is we're going. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And we did.
That's good.
And that 1 week vacation turned into 2 and was a business write-off because I booked another gig in Florida.
That's awesome.
And I was telling somebody about the memory yesterday. It came up in my Facebook memories. And I was like, that was such a great time. That would have never happened if I stuck around.
Yeah.
You know?
So I received that encouragement, and hopefully all the listeners receive the encouragement as well to be like, okay. I was reaching out to one of my pastors and telling him as the news was breaking, and he texted back this very long, heartfelt prayer. Totally loved that. And the one line I loved of that was, God didn't bring you this far just to bring you this far.
Right.
There's something else.
It is. It is. And it's, just getting to know you, and you and I just met literally in the past hour. Just sitting down here with you and getting to know you also on the radio, because I did listen to you back in the day. I used to listen to The Fish, and I listened to Way FM and stuff like that. You have something to offer, man. Never, ever think otherwise.
Appreciate that.
You know what I mean? And there's so much more that you have to offer than you realize. It just takes, someone speaking into your life, maybe from a mentor standpoint or a consultant or whatever, say, hey, have you thought of this? You know what you should do. Did you ever, I understand that it's a more of a ministry-based format, getting back to The Fish and Way FM, it just kind of popped into my head. There was also the third one, which was the syndicated nationally, what were the name of the
network?
Yeah. No, there was another one that came to town not too, I don't know, about 10 years ago.
Oh, K-Love?
K-Love.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Educational Media Foundation is the overall umbrella for K-Love, which is a Christian adult contemporary format, and then Air One, which is a worship format. They had been based out of Rockland, California for a long time, and later this summer we'll be opening up their worldwide headquarters not too far from here in Franklin, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
With a performance auditorium and all of that. I think I was probably one of the only broadcasters that have worked for K-Love, for Salem, and for Way FM when we were at this radio convention recently. So I did work for K-Love for 2 years in 90 and 91.
Oh, wow.
When I was 23.
They're still around though, right?
They're still around. They are the largest listener-supported entity. There's K-Love Books. There's K-Love Films. I found out recently they have 8 radio streams.
Really?
So they've broken off all the decades in Christian music. So you can listen to their 70s channel, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, and the current stuff. They do books. They do films.
There are a lot of
tours.
spaces.
Yes, all 50 states.
But even, there's always that competitive nature of a radio person where you're like, yeah, it's Way FM, but they're not. They're not The Fish. Come on.
Well, ratings-wise, we were the most listened to Christian station in the market. The ratings were very successful. But in the end, the cool thing, I guess, with the three of us, as far as Way and The Fish and K-Love, is, there's the competitive nature. We're all radio pros. We all want to win, but we ultimately know we're all on the same team. In terms of, winning people and encouraging people and sharing Christ. I don't know if you heard, but it was very classy, in my opinion, that K-Love was able to what we call stunt on one of their frequencies. Instead of flipping the switch, they did a 10,000 worship song buffer. And they reached out to me to share some names of people, and they ran 60-second announcements throughout the first couple of weeks of that transition to say, hey, we didn't start Christian music on this frequency. The Fish did. People like, and they listed off a good 20-something names. We hope if you stick around that you'll like us too, and we'll try to be as good as they were. I took that as very classy on their part, and that's something that rarely happens in the industry. I was very passionate about lobbying for that last day. I wanted that last day send-off because as a radio guy, I had grown up listening to so many other stations where the norm in radio is you get let go, tomorrow there's somebody else on and the listener doesn't know anything. Where's Jim? I thought he was over here.
Come into my office and bring your headphones. And as soon as you grab your headphones, the guy's just like sneaking in the door as you're leaving, kind of thing.
One of the times I got let go, the guy was very bad at getting to the point, so he was kind of dancing all around it. And so I finally just cut in and said, so it sounds like you're letting me go. When is my last show? He goes, you just did it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, thanks. But anyway, I appreciated the fact that Salem allowed us to say goodbye, that we honor the listeners in that. And then K-Love also honoring the fact that, hey, we kept this station from going secular.
Yeah.
We bought this station to keep it with Christian music and acknowledging, the 21 and a half years of the station being there. So nothing but love for all of them.
Because K-Love did buy the signal, right?
Yes. Right. Our company was going to sell it regardless.
Right.
So, K-Love's like, well, we would love to be able to have a little broader reach for our worship network, and we want to, keep it as a Christian music format. So
I was going to ask, are they selling any of the assets and the mics and stuff like that? Is it going on auction?
Well,
I'm buying.
Yeah, I was going to say. And they've got a whole studio set up over there by the airport that'll probably be absorbed within the company.
I bet. Yeah.
There's a network that's currently there, but will be moved to Atlanta. So you've got to fish in Atlanta. You've got to fish in LA still, and then KLTY, other properties that say.
Well, K-Love is in Franklin, right?
Yeah.
So I guess they're just probably going to move everything there. No reason to have two different locations like that.
Yeah, exactly. And at this point, K-Love operates with one set of announcers and then just everything else. So there's no Nashville version of K-Love. There's K-Love.
Right.
On in Nashville, on in, all 50 states. So it's just putting a widget at the transmitter and flipping.
Did you have any inclination that this was coming?
No. I tell people that the day that we found out, earlier in that day, I had ordered a salad for a meeting we were going to have for our November fundraiser for the Nashville Rescue Mission, a yearly thing that we do. Oh, we're going to have a meeting. I want this salad. And then a couple hours later, our GM said, mandatory meeting, 3 o'clock, everybody in the room.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, well, I'm on at 3 o'clock, and I usually do my little impossible question. So I was trying to ask him, do I need to cover that? Is this going to be like a short meeting? And he just said, well, these kind of meetings tend to lead to more conversation and more questions. You probably should, track your show, record the show.
He's so political. Gosh.
But
okay, yeah, I see the writing on the wall.
To their credit, they got in and, laid everything out there and said, this is what we're doing. And we're like, okay, let's roll with it.
But everybody in radio, anybody in any W-2 job is going to put themselves in the mindset of, okay, what happens when it runs out or if it ends? Mm-hmm. Not everybody has a 21-year run. The only other person I could think of that's had he's got to be up to 40 years now. The morning guy I started with up in Connecticut, his name is Ethan Carey, and he's been there as the morning guy as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. So when I was listening to that station in the late 80s, he was the morning guy. Mm-hmm. I got to work with him when I worked there, and I befriended his son. He's one of my best friends. I was one of the best, his support men, I guess, or groomsmen in his wedding and everything. So we're integrally involved in each other's lives. Never thought that would happen, but he just recently, he's back. He's in a part-time status. Still has his name on the marquee of the morning show, but is there maybe once or twice a week. Mm-hmm. So he kind of good for him. He kind of called his own shot. And planned well for it. You know. You and I, on the other hand, this stuff happens. We still got another 25 years to go.
Yeah. So that'll be the exciting part of what is next. But
anybody reach out and say, hey, I got an opportunity for you and stuff like that?
I was very encouraged. There's a publication called His Air. Mm-hmm. We talked about all access kind of being the thing back in the day for all formats. His Air, is sort of the Christian version of that.
Yeah.
And, breaking news on His Air. And so when that news broke, I received 3 general manager offers to move out of market.
Right.
And I appreciated all of those people, friends of mine, and they're like, hey, we would love to work with you. I would love to work with you too, but I don't feel at this stage in my life God's saying it's time to move. We got a house. Right. Our family's here. So right now it's a no, but, we'll keep the conversation kind of open. So
you are working from home.
Yeah.
That's a concept.
Yeah, so definitely. That was one of those things. And then I also have a skill set, I believe, in fundraising. So that may be another something that develops as well. There's a company that's based out of here that employs people to go on and be that third or fourth wheel for a station's fundraiser. A lot of Christian stations are listener supported.
Right.
Twice a year or something, they'll come on and ask for listener support. So there's sort of a skill set to do that properly.
Yes, totally. You're skilled orator. Mm-hmm. Much more skilled than I am. Because I'm stumbling all over the place, and this is the way I am. You're so well-spoken, and spokesperson was one of the possibilities I could think of for you.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to any of that for the folks that have had the long relationships with me.
There's so many things.
So many things. The future's so bright, I got to wear shades.
It really is, man, and it's blessing in disguise. It has to be. I mean, is that, and you have such a good positive disposition anyway, so it seems, is it always like that? Or did you, like the day after, go, man, was it like just weighing on you? Do you have at least, some amount in a pile of cash that you can kind of weather things for a while at least? Because, I mean, a lot of people that don't in this day and age.
Well, I mean, the company, I think, did right by me in terms of severance and stuff for that long with them. So that does provide the cushion. But I think the biggest comfort for me was I didn't have anything to do with it.
Right.
I think everybody can relate to being in a job and sometimes you wanting to pull out for the wrong reasons. Like, I am so fed up, or this happened, or this made. So I never wanted to leave angry and in the flesh, as we might say in the Christian vernacular.
I would totally do that.
Jim slamming the door going,
I'm laying on my horn on the way out.
So I just thought, I always said, I wonder, will I leave the station or will the station leave me? Yeah. I've been here since the first day. And then, okay, so the station is leaving me, but and our whole team, we had nothing to do with it. The ratings were up. All the metrics were up. This was a total financial decision from a big company. Yeah. So I thought, okay, God brought me here. God pulled me out. So I know he's got something else.
And it's like you could look at management and say, oh, great, it isn't me, it is you.
That's right. That's right. And you.
And you. It's not me. My numbers and the revenue shows that we're doing our job.
We're doing good.
You're not doing your job.
No, our local team and everything was great. They were blindsided as well. Our general manager, nobody had no idea those talks were happening way up the totem pole. I always talk about totem poles and decisions because I was never a music director. Yeah. I was never a program director. I always enjoyed just being a talent. So when you think of heads on the totem pole, I always said mine was the one under the ground. It's not having much of an impact on getting songs played or getting things happen.
The funny thing is that so many people in positions like that, even when I sold cars, again, getting back to the concept of sell or be sold, we would always forget to be salespeople when it came to dealing with managers. And I would tell salespeople that I used to work with them, like, now that I'm outside of the business, you need to look at your salesmanship when it comes to even your managers selling you, or they're being sold on, well, hey, we have a new pay plan. Mm-hmm. And it's, more in our favor than yours, which does happen.
Yeah.
There was once an instance where I was working for another dealership and they changed the pay plan. It was retroactive. And it was like, this is radio all over again, for crying out loud. I feel like I'm in another industry that's careening into the ground. And now I know if I were in that situation again, what I would say. And I would just be like, look, do I need to get my attorney on the phone now or wait until we're done? Because I'm not going to argue this with you. I'm going to sell you on the fact that I will go to this next nuclear option if need be, because this is not what I agreed to and I'm not signing it. There's a guy who actually I deal with here. He works for a local music store, and they tried to pull that stuff on him. I sold him 2 cars, one of the best salespeople I've ever met. This guy is world class, and a lot of people listening know who I'm talking about. But this guy was telling me stories about how they tried to do the same thing with him. And he has got such leverage and earns such revenue for not just the store, but for like the region because of the brand he's built, how he deals with all of his customers, who he's got in his cell phone. I mean, big names. And they said, well, hey, we're doing this all across the board. And he's like, that's great. I'm not signing that. I'm good with the one I have. And it was a staring contest. See who blinks first.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing. I'm not signing it. What are you going to do? And he had all the leverage. A lot of people don't think to ask that. A lot of people just accept. They don't ask.
I think that goes back to talking about the fear.
The fear. There's a fear there.
And the confidence that doesn't go into cockiness.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that can come from 25 years in the market is the idea that you have confidence. You are not in your 20s and 30s anymore. You've got a certain level of like, this is wrong, and I'm going to call a spade a spade. And even if I get flushed still for what I feel fighting for, I'm going to go down swinging.
Right. It's not, but it's swinging in the sense of letting them save face as well. I completely understand that, these things have happened, but let's look at it this way. What if we did this? What if we did this? And being able to think on the fly and reframe the conversations. Because I did that. My first iteration out of radio, I was actually a detour into the collision business where I was able, like in radio, I always wished for the one gig to be able to do just one thing because I was writing for so many different companies that advertised, ad copy, producing for them, producing imaging for both the stations, writing for both the stations. We did video back in the day, producing videos. I mean, Jack FM was one of the first radio stations to have a MySpace page and do its own videos back in 05, 06 when YouTube was hardly a thing. So we were doing all that stuff. And it got to the point where it was like, I can't remember the point I was going to make. This is why I'm so bad at this. A lot of these things, the skill sets kind of built over time. But I became the man, ended up getting out of the business, got into the collision business as a detour because I was like an all-in-one agency for this guy. And he says, I've been looking for you for so many years. Okay, great. Let's do this. It, saves me from the car business for a season at least. And I did that with him for about 2.5, 3 months. Local big collision company. You probably remember the jingle. And it was one of those things that it got back to, it was wonky to begin with. And I knew that like in the first week I was there, he must have let 7 people go. And we were getting paid really well, but I let all of my side hustles go by the wayside. All the voiceover gigs, all the video stuff I was doing. I finally have the one thing, getting back to the original point. So he pulls me in 2.5 months in. It's just not working out. Okay. I understand. What about it isn't working out? We were going to go in this direction. This was going to happen. You were going to replace your agency, saving you $10,000 a month. I'm only making X, but I'm going to start wearing all these hats for your company. What's the problem? The needle's just not moving. Okay. That's on me. I probably should have set those expectations when we sat down and talked about this. This is going to take a while for what we're doing. I'll say that now. Do you agree? No. Okay. So let me get this straight. You built 9 stores in the course of 2.5 months. Is that what you did? No, it took me 19 years. Okay. So things do take time, right? And I was like, literally, I got to the point where I have nothing to lose. And I was trying to close the guy and save my job. And he goes, it's not you. It really is me. I said, no, you and I are in agreement on that. It is you. I said, you do get in the way of this business quite a bit. You could have a rockin' and rollin' business, but every now and then you got to come in and throw the wrench into the freaking works. I said, sorry, that's what people are saying.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I know. I said, dude, what are you doing then? Just let the business run.
Yeah.
You told me you want to work on your business, not in it. Then get the hell out of it. Work on it. So that was my last step. That's when I realized I was trying to close him. Maybe not in the best way. But that, kind of factored in when I got to those points in the car business and I got to almost the end zone, the 3-yard line with a customer asking those really, uncomfortable questions. Is this the one you want to go with? I don't want rejection.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. You got a lot of opportunity. I hope you know that. So.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I do. And it's been, it's been very educational.
Yeah.
Your tips and your pointers. I appreciate that.
As you know, I have a lot of good ideas. Trouble is, most of them suck. So, where can people find and follow you in the meantime, man?
Yeah. So, DJ Doug Griffin.
.com.
Nice. And that's
is it like a link tree or anything where they can get all your socials?
No, but they'll stay connected. That's the mobile DJ side. I don't really have the radio shingle out there.
Right.
If someone wants to go, actually the website is down at the moment, but will be up soon. I still have the dougandcarla.com up. That was the website that we have when I left Way FM at 2001.
Oh, wow.
Which was also very fun for this radio convention that I was at recently. 2 of my former interns that were with me there at Way FM. One is like a big guy up. They're both big into the industry.
Yeah.
One kind of stepped out, was kind of like, those are the fun things that you get that kind of length in a market and impacting people. And he's like, those interns, like he's the PD now and he's over there doing label promotions and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, that was cool.
Did you ever get people that were in production or programming that crossed the threshold into sales and management in that era, in that realm?
Not that I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Friend of mine actually did out in Vegas.
Really? Okay.
He was a production guy, and I think he did a little bit of on-air work, and at some point must have crossed the, to the dark side, so to speak. And he did sales, and now he's a GM at a radio station.
Wow.
Good for you, dude. That's awesome.
I always felt I never would be good at sales because I had a hard time taking no. Like, I could sell something to you
Yeah.
if I believed in it, because I'm just selling my testimony. It's those no's that I was always,
Well, that's the overcoming objections part. And I get what you're saying, because going into the car business, I consider myself to be a good salesperson. Mm-hmm. And I could sell my video products. I could sell my voiceovers. I could sell radio if need be. But it was getting to the closing. Closing is the key. That's the skill. Mm-hmm. Identifying the one thing holding this person back from being separated from their money. That's the skill. Selling, I got very good. I sold Mercedes. And again, I had somebody when I was selling Honda, which was my first iteration of the car business, and in active, this is my main income selling. That was like my training ground. It built my foundation. I didn't see myself as a highline luxury automobile salesperson. I saw myself as a Honda guy because I drove a Honda. I could relate to Honda people. And every time I went we owned like 7 stores at the time, the company that owned us. And one of them was BMW, Mercedes, Porsche. We would go to BMW a lot, and we would share different inventory. Hey, they got this car. Let's go grab it and bring it and see if we could sell it. And every time I went into the BMW store, it was like, I just don't belong here. I am not cut from this cloth. And it was all in my head. Literally just that was my mindset. I am not good enough for this place. And then I had a customer at Honda who told me he had sold cars once upon a time. And I guess the way I handled myself, did all my things, he goes, you're in the wrong spot. Okay. What makes you say that? You need to be in Highline. Okay. Like Lexus. Yeah, totally. Like when we're done with this, well, after I buy this car, and I am buying this car, get yourself another gig. You're in the wrong spot.
Interesting.
My wife could have told me that. My dad, my brother, my kids, everybody who loved me. And I'd be like, you know what you're talking about. Okay. You're just telling me that because you love me. This guy didn't know me from Adam. But wouldn't you know it? I did exactly what he said. And I stepped out into that uncomfortable zone of maybe I can do this. And man, here was like, in the span of a year and a half, 2 years, yet another uncomfortable situation I had to put myself through, because I had to go through the first 2.5 months of being in the car business, of having my foot out the door, of maybe I could do all the other stuff I'm good at. Mm-hmm. Until after 2.5 months, and a friend of mine, who's a good friend of mine now, we actually do a podcast together. He says, dude, this isn't going to work until you're fully committed. Mm-hmm. And then 3 months into Honda, I said, okay, I'm going to commit to this. And then everything started popping. I was committed to the car business. I was going to make it work. And it started working. And then I got to the point where I have this customer. Well, here, you're not done yet. You can do this too. Oh, man. Got on the website that very evening, looked at, hey, Mercedes-Benz has got an opening for a salesperson. Let me put in for a transfer. And it's like I did it so the wrong way, because typically you finish out a month, you get your paycheck, and then you start something anew. I left mid-month in the middle of December of 2013 and started at Mercedes. But I remember having a different mentality. I said, I'm going to go in. They wouldn't let me take the floor until I took some of their courses and passed some tests and got certified to a certain extent. And I said, well, I'm going to ace that, and I'm going to do it in record time. And by come hell or high water, I am selling my first car by the end of this month. New Year's Eve day, I sold my first car.
Wow.
My second car was in January of 2014. It was my first 6-figure car I ever sold. I called my wife. I'm like, I just sold like a house. This thing is $120,000. He's buying it. Oh my gosh. Can you believe this? I actually, and it's just like, confidence is just the memory of success, man.
It's good.
And that's what it is, right?
I receive it. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're like, I want to leave now, Jim. You're holding me up here too. No. I'm placating you and just, humoring you.
I receive that. I get it. The brains, the things are swirling.
Yeah. You're not done yet, pal. You got a lot of runway left.
I appreciate that. I look forward to it.
Well, there you go, Doug. Thanks for being on. Have people check you out at DJ Doug.
DJ Doug Griffin.
DougGriffin.com. And make sure you, especially if you're in the mode of hiring a DJ for a wedding, an event. Hey, it's something you can do.
I do.
It's totally viable.
I do enjoy being a part of special days.
Reach out to you, DJDougGriffin.com. And of course, MMTBP.com. This is probably going to come out after the event, but we are going to be sponsoring and actually podcasting live from the Music City Drum Show. And we have a discount code there you can go check out. MMTBP is the code for 10% off tickets if you want to check that out. I'm not even sure if it's going to be relevant by this point or when this is going to come out. So hopefully it's still relevant, but we'll go with that. Maybe we'll bump it up. So check us out, mmtbp.com. If you know somebody who needs to be on, the application's there, all the ways to share there, and we'd love it if you did. Doug, thank you so much, pal.
I appreciate it, Jim. Thank you.